Hi everyone, good morning. How are you doing today? So, if you saw my last video, we talked about how learning about cultures and understanding about cultures can help us really shine as our own authentic self. So, today I want to talk a little bit about measurements of culture. If you are like me, you believe that in order to improve something, you need first and foremost to measure it. Sorry, I'm an engineer as a background. So for me, having data and measuring stuff is really, really important in order to understand if there is progress, if there is blind spots, if there is strength that I can leverage, right? And so data, can you collect data around culture? What is your culture? What is the culture of the organization you work with? What is the culture of the country you just moved to, right? And so good news for every one of us that love data out there. Yes, you can measure culture. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of like crash course in the history of anthropology. So, culture and anthropology really started to be studied at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, where, as I said, anthropology courses started to be established and interest in cultures really started developing. Okay. There is a whole history that I will skip through, but bottom line, in the 50s, the 60s, I'm talking 1950s, 1960s, right? As the world became more and more connected, and of course, we are post World War II, right? So the world is seen as one entity now, right? All of a sudden, and the tendency towards globalization and all of that, the topic of culture became more and more prominent, and not only became the study of the field of anthropology, but psychology started to chime in, and especially business management, right? That's when we started to see more and more, of course, during the years, the interest from organization and large organizations, companies, starting to play a role, because as team became more and more global, of course, the interest around culture kind of spiked, right? And globalization poses new questions and challenges to big leaders about how to really be effective in a global environment. Okay. And so this is where big names like Trompenars, Hofstede, right? They really come into play. And these people and these are scholars, right? I just named a couple. There are a little bit more, but yeah, they are definitely the most known ones. They really started developing models, right? And so they started looking at cultures and what are the elements that separate one culture from the other, right? And so there are different models out there. And today, that is 2025, of course, now this has been around for 20 years, 30 years. I can tell you that there are assessments available out there. And so this is exactly what I help my clients do, especially when an expat moves into a new country, for example, having a snapshot of where they stand, right, versus the culture of the country of origin and the culture of where they are going to or where they just moved to. It's super important because it's like taking a snapshot, it's like taking a picture of exactly what are the areas where you will have strengths, right? And what are the areas where you'll have opportunities? What are you leaving behind, maybe from your country of origin, right? And at the same time, how can you get better aligned to the culture of where you're going, right? But this is also an exercise that is extremely helpful for teams, because also teams have cultures, right? And so as a team, as we look at as a team, how can I measure the individual culture versus the average of the team. And again, what are the strengths and what are the opportunities for us as a team to really embody the leadership traits that we want to embody and be highly effective, right? So this is to tell you that there are models, because there are dimensions. There are a lot of cultural dimensions out there. And starting next week, I'm going to start deep diving in some of these dimensions that have been, over the course of, let's say, the past 30 years, studied and chosen by scholars as the dimensions that are most important for highly effective leaders and highly effective teams in the workplace. So I want to talk to each and every one of you about what are these dimensions, and actually I will use mainly Italian and American as a point of reference, because of course that's the ones I'm the most familiar with, but I will try to throw in also some other elements, maybe from some other cultures I am familiar with for other reason than really living abroad, so that everyone can get a sense of what this dimension means. And even more importantly, okay, now that I know what these dimensions are, how am I gonna be measuring myself against them, so that hopefully I can understand, okay, what do I need to do next in order to better adapt culturally. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Yes, there are methods, there are assessments, there are ways for us to measure individual cultures and help map those dimensions to the, let's say, receiving culture, right? Like if you're an expat going in a new country, okay, how do you measure yourself towards that, right? Or if you're a new team member, how do you measure yourself with respect to the team culture? Okay, so I hope that you will continue following me along, because I have quite a few dimensions to talk to you about over the course of the next few weeks. So please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my content. And I'm Simona Pappalardo. I help frustrated global leaders and expats become culturally competent and truly engaged, so that they can authentically connect with their teams and confidently build success in their careers. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.